Hello, Noble Knitter. It's Nancy Queen, and I'm so glad you're with me today, especially if you are a new or advanced beginner knitter. I did the video like this about a year ago, but it was when I had just gotten back into doing YouTube, and I added voice to it. My background was dark, and I mean, not voice, I added sound to it, music, and the music was louder than my talking, and I got a lot of complaints about it. But there's a lot of really good information that I provided in that video. So I thought for 2020, let's revisit it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click the bell to get notified every time I post. It's important to know these tips just to help you get through that trial stage, that learning phase. And before you know it, all of these things that I'm giving you will go away because you will have grasped the concept of knitting. But when you're just learning, it's a struggle. So let's get right into the tips. Tip number one is, it sounds obvious, but relax. You need to relax with your knitting. In fact, I was just teaching someone how to crochet, and she was telling me how much her fingers hurt. And it's because you get so tense when you're knitting or crocheting that you're like this. If you can relax your fingers a little, tighten them up, relax them, do a couple exercises like this, relax your fingers so that you can actually pick up the concept that your hands are supposed to be learning. And maybe you want to get yourself in the mood. Put on a relaxing TV show, not a scary movie. Maybe light some candles, play some relaxing music. Just put yourself in a mood and in an environment to be able to unwind and learn. And then tip number two, give yourself time to learn a new skill. So many of us think that we have to catch on to it right away and there's no waiting. You know, we didn't do that as kids. And I've taught a lot of children and adults to knit. And one of the things I've noticed is that the kids will just stick with it until they get it. They don't get frustrated because their minds are in a learning phase. So they're used to learning things at school all the time and they understand the frustration that they might have, but they just stick with it. If they make mistakes, they don't usually get too upset about it. But as adults, we want to get it right away. And if we don't, we feel like there's something wrong with us. There's not. You just need to give yourself time. Think back to when you learned how to tie your shoelaces. You didn't learn that overnight. Drive a car, you didn't learn that overnight. I mean, there's lots of things that you've learned along the way that are a process. And this is just one of them, but the rewards are really wonderful. So stick with it and give yourself time to learn. Number three, enjoy the process. Knitting is a journey. Just like a hike, you wouldn't be rushing to get through it to get to the top of the mountain. You know that you have to pace yourself and provide water and go one step at a time. You're not going to run the whole way because you'll fade out and won't be able to make it up to the top of the hill. The same thing goes with knitting. This is a process and you just need to relax and enjoy the process and know that things will happen along the way, but it's just part of the learning process. So give yourself the time that you need and give yourself a pat on the back when you're done for a job well done of making an effort into learning something new. Number four, give yourself permission to make mistakes. We live in a very perfectionist world. We think that nothing can have mistakes in it. But guess what? When you're knitting, mistakes will happen. And the more you make mistakes, you'll actually understand what the stitches are doing and how they're supposed to look so that you can correct them if you make those mistakes in the future. And there isn't a knitter out there who has not ripped out a project or frogged it, like we call it in knitting, or realized they've knitted the entire back of a sweater and found a dropped stitch way down in the first 2 inches and then thought, oh, I've got to rip out the whole thing. We've all been there. We've all done crazy mistakes in our knitting. Just know that that is part of the process and part of knitting. And as you grow as a knitter, there's so many things to learn. There's actually 200 different ways to cast on. You might only know of one or two. And It's something that you can enjoy for your whole life and keep learning new tips, tricks, and techniques. Number 5, remember that this is a hobby. I've met way too many knitters that are comparing notes, trying to one-up each other, trying to do the most complicated things. You know what? If you just like the knit stitch, you can stick with that. You don't ever have to learn anything more than that. Just enjoy the process of knitting and the hobby that it is. It is meant for you to relax and unwind. If you pick up some new knowledge along the way, that's even better. But this is a hobby for you to do in your relaxation time to help you unwind. And as you grow as a knitter, you will find that you get a sense of relief and satisfaction, and you'll enjoy the rhythm of knitting as you move along. So enjoy that process. Number 6 is laugh. You know, like I said, it's a hobby, and it's such a joyful hobby because look, how can you not be happy with all of these beautiful colors and yarns surrounding you, and fibers and textile? So, you know, just enjoy it, and when you get a chance, knit with someone else. Right now, you might only be able to do it through Zoom calls or FaceTime, but being able to sit and knit with others when you get a chance, you know, or if you're a family member, teach them to knit so that you have someone to knit with and just relax, tell jokes. This, like I said, is a hobby for you to enjoy. And then number 7, the most important tip I have for today is practice. Repetition, just like you were taught as a little kid, repetition breeds success. You will watch, even if you were knitting a swatch and you knitted from here to here, you will see great improvements in your knitting technique just from knitting a few inches, and it will only improve from there. And then you'll understand what the stitches look like and how they work together, and if they get manipulated a different way, what that looks like. Get into it, knit as much as you can, and like I said, keep it simple. If right now you only want to do the knit stitch, just do the knit stitch and enjoy it. And then you'll decide, okay, I've had enough of this stitch. I think I'd rather pick up something else. Now I want to learn how to purl, or I'm ready to learn how to cable. Just pick up a little bit at a time. Enjoy the process. I'm so glad you've decided to become a knitter. I'm so glad you're here. And let's see what's in the next video. Thanks so much for joining me.